Taped from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, the show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
And I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
Hey, Darren, how's it going this week?
It's good. It's going good, my friend. The summer is over, and we're going into the autumnal season.
Ain't that the truth?
The fall, as the layman's would say.
The temperatures here on the East Coast, they dropped like a rock, it seems. And it's been like raining all this week. There's like flooding in New York and Hoboken I've been seeing. It's crazy pants out there.
It really is. It's like, for all our New York friends, like, stay safe out there. Like, I've seen, like, people, of course, take videos of everything that's happened. I've seen flooding inside of buses that's been happening. I've seen streets in Brooklyn that are just like canals, basically. There was one shot, I forget where it was. Like, it was like a subway in Brooklyn where there were literally water bursting out of the tile walls.
I saw that. I saw that video. Yeah, that was something else. And I'm just seeing streets that look like they're half submerged. And I'm just like, what are all the people in like basement apartments doing?
I know. I was like, how is a city that's so expensive to live in, it just doesn't have the money to fucking fix their infrastructure?
Well, because they're consciously choosing not to spend the money on it. Because I guess
there it is.
I don't know. I guess that's just not sexy or something. Or
yeah, it's like and I was like, oh yeah, and the tolls just not the tolls, the fare, the subway fare just went up to like $2.90. So I was like, well, is any of that gonna go to paying towards this crumbling subway system that we have, or is it just going to go to fancy pants things for the 1%? I'm really sounding like a Rage Against the Machine song as I keep talking about it right now.
We should put like a little a dance beat under this.
Yeah.
You can drop it as a signal.
And they do what they told you. And they do what they told you. Dun, dun. Fuck that! I won't do what they tell me. Okay.
But with all that, we did have a big bit of good news this week. Is that the writer's strike came to a favorable resolution?
Hey, it happened. Yes, as of last week.
Yay!
The WGA writer's strike is officially over.
Yeah, and like I forget what the initials for the producing guild are called, but
AMP. It's like
AMTP and P and M and T's and A's are in there. They're in that in some order. But yeah, they made an offer. The guild accepted it, and apparently, like, people go back to work. They still have to the whole membership still has to vote on it, but they going back to work in the meantime.
Yeah, as far from what I've heard, like late night talk shows, they're gonna have brand new episodes actually this week, starting this week.
It should be most of them are coming back this Monday, the day this podcast is dropping. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know Bill Maher just came out with his new one yesterday.
Who cares about that?
Yeah, I was just trying to be nice, I guess. But but yeah,
I was not.
Yeah, no, he's a piece of shit.
But it's going to be nice to have Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert and all the other folks back. I guess you can tell who my favorites are.
Yeah, I really want to see if Fallon's going to address all those allegations that came out towards him during the strike about how he's...
Well, you know what? He didn't address them at all on the Strike Force 5 podcast, so I think he's not going to.
It's just going to lay low.
My guess. Yeah.
It's just going to lay low. It's like, hope all these angry people find something else to focus on, and I'll just ride it out.
He's like, that was a news cycle or two ago, so yeah, maybe I'm okay and I can just skate on the statement I released.
All right, let's see. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if that plays out for him.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's it's weird. It's so weird. Like when the people who they built their whole persona over, like, I'm so fun and likable. Let's play games. Let's do silly stuff, and then they seem to be like monsters in real life.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the real reason why so many people are upset with him, because we hear stories about that from unlikable people who are just straight up assholes to our faces, like Bill Maher.
you hear that Bill Maher is an asshole, and you're like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, or like Charlie Sheen is a maniac. I was like, yeah, that seems right. But then
Yeah,
like, yeah, exactly. But like then there's people like you said, like Fallon or DeGeneres or Lizzo, who
yeah,
kind of build this brand of on like on a all of them being niceness and kindness, and then you
yeah,
find out that they're raging monsters behind the scenes.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's it. That's that image of like kind of feeling like they're being lied to. That's what makes people upset.
Yeah, it does feel like a betrayal, I guess, is for want of a better word. Yeah, I will say I have been enjoying the Strike Force 5 podcast. That's been a lot of fun, especially since they recently had Jon Stewart and David Letterman both guest star on it.
Oh yeah, I never gave that a listen. Like, so that was pretty solid.
Yeah, it's fun. It's basically it's just the five late night hosts: Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, and John Oliver, and it's basically just the five of them BSing for an hour.
Hmm.
But they talk about like their common ground of like, oh well, what was your first show like?
Mm.
What are the guests that really surprised you? And like things that only talk show hosts can talk about with other talk show hosts. But if you're interested in that world, it's fascinating.
Oh.
This last episode, they had David Letterman sitting in with them, and like Colbert talked about how he got offered the Late Show, and like when they first approached him, he was like, okay, well, have you talked with Dave about this yet? Because if you haven't talked about this with Dave, we can't have this conversation. And he was like, and Dave, I'd love to hear what your perspective was on
Mhm.
this. And yeah, so it was for a late night junkie like me, it was fascinating. And I heard they were supposed to have Conan O'Brien, but uh they hadn't settled on a date yet, so I guess that's not going to happen since the strike
Oh.
has been settled now and they're all going back to work.
Yeah. Wow. This is pretty amazing because like it's just to me something like this seems like a far cry from like the late night wars of like the what was like the 90s like with Leno and
The
Letterman.
'90s and the early 2000s, yeah, with the
Yeah.
with Dave versus Jay, and then the Jay versus Conan, and that whole mess. It is still weird to me that all the late night hosts are friendly with
It
each
really
other.
is. Like I expected them to be like Game of Thrones, where they're just all these kingdoms just attacking each other and just cutting each other off at the knees. But like no, there actually seemed to be peace and harmony between them. It's like
Yeah, like
oh,
they guest on each other's shows. Apparently the podcast just kind of evolved out of, I think, like a text chain that or an email chain that the five of them have together because they're
yeah.
all friends. Like I mean, Colbert and Oliver have the shared history of the Daily Show. Uh, Fallon and Seth Meyers, they have the shared SNL history. So there is a lot of commonality there,
Mm.
and they've talked about that, and then I find it interesting, but at the same time, you're just kind of like, can't at least two of you hate each other?
Yeah.
Can't we get a good feud going?
Yeah, bring Bill Maher in here. He'll fucking you can all hate him.
That would be fun if they would like dish some dirt on somebody, but of course, they're not going to do that. They're too smart to do that. They're too
Yeah, I know that
too smart and too professional.
that would damage their nice guy brand. See, it all comes
Right,
full circle. They can't be
right.
like, yeah, I saw Bill Maher open up for so and so at the Copa and he bombed. Like that
Yeah,
would hurt. That would hurt.
yeah. But they can tell stories about them bombing or doing stupid stuff or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, but
But
it's not as fun.
But I mean, of course, the other big result of the strike is that it looks like there's a real possibility that SNL may be coming back for a new season soon.
Yeah, there have been like a number of news outlets have been putting out articles about how like SNL is eyeing October 4th or October 7th or October 14th as a
Yeah,
start date.
October 4th would be an odd date for
It,
them
it
to
would be
come back on, since that would be a Wednesday, I think.
yes. Wednesday Night Live. All
Yeah,
right. Didn't have to sing, didn't sing, but all right. But yeah,
yeah,
they have been talking about like bringing it back, but a lot of people have also been like, well, how is that going to work? Because SAG-AFTRA is still on strike, and
right.
numerous.
That's what I don't get, and I haven't done like a whole lot of research. But you said that you had the answer to this, so please lay it on me. Explain this to me. Enlighten me.
Well, according to what I've read, they say that SNL, like daily late night shows and reality shows, much like in Dancing with the Stars, are covered under SAG-AFTRA's network code, which
Okay,
I know they voted on
so it's
last
like an
year.
exemption, basically.
Yes, exactly. So, like the same
Okay.
reason that stars can go on Dancing with the Stars, the cast could do SNL. But like a part of me is thinking, I really don't know if the cast would want to do that because, like, the optics of it wouldn't look that great, and like
Yeah.
even though yes, technically they can do it, may, part of me thinks, well, maybe they'll opt to not do it just to stand, you know, with their other actor brethren and in arms and whatnot. Um,
Well, and also there's the very real factor of who do you get as a host?
mm,
Do you just get all sports stars or celebrity or politicians instead of actors and actresses?
You could do that. I mean, you could do musicians too. Although
True.
I think a number of musicians are in SAG-AFTRA, but you can get
Yeah.
ones that aren't. You could do something really radical and just do a show without a host, like a hostless show, which I remember they did like decades ago.
That would
And
be fun to see, honestly. Just
yeah,
see the cast performing together.
yeah, let the cast be the star.
That that would be fun, and that would really switch things up. I mean, of course, we kind of had that with the SNL at home. I mean, we even then we had some celebrity cameos like Tom Hanks, but
Yeah, Brad Pitt came out for that one.
yeah,
But yeah, they could do a hostless show, and also I also do wonder because like I know like a lot of the comedians have already booked shows for
yeah,
for October, like we talked about a couple of shows ago, where Jost and Che they have that Radio City Music Hall happening on the 14th.
right.
I actually looked up Michael Longfellow's schedule on his website, and he has a whole bunch of shows booked up on a lot of Saturday nights throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, he was. I mean, like the ones that have the stand-up backgrounds, they were booked well into the future, and I think I might have heard that like Michael Longfellow was back in New York now. I think in case they needed him or something.
Yes,
Um,
I think so. Like I
I
know
think
he,
I saw that on Twitter, um, which I mean, not to be cruel, but like we could do the show without Michael Longfellow.
ooh, spicy.
I mean,
We don't need him.
it's great that he'd be there, but he would not be a deal breaker. And but I guess his SNL contract would preclude other commitments that he made, and he could just reschedule those for off weeks or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, or maybe they'll do like they did with Cecily and 80 and Kate when they had to take time off to shoot their other projects and
Hmm.
kind of work around his schedule. But then again, those were Kate and 80 and Cecily. They were kind of like a higher echelon, like they have seniority over like Longfellow.
Yeah. I think Lauren is going to give people at that level more leeway, especially since like COVID was a factor there, and here it's
Mm,
just the strikes.
yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I mean, I hope they come back sooner rather than later, and I hope they come back, and I hope I hope the SAG strike is resolved by the time SNL comes back, so it's not even a question, and they can get more or less whoever they want.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, this whole thing might be moot because SAG-AFTRA and AMPTP, those are the letters, they're actually meeting up to talk this coming Monday. So by the time this podcast comes out, they will either have talked or are still in talks. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
and
Maybe.
I think the WGA strike being settled, that can really pave the way for the SAG strike being settled, because I mean there were some overlapping issues there certainly, and it sounds like from all the writers that I'm seeing on Facebook and on Twitter and stuff, they all sound very very happy with the deal. I mean, of course, in any strike you don't get every single thing you want, but it sounds like they got a lot of good advancements. So
Right.
I
If
hope that bodes well for
right.
SAG.
If Adam Conover is happy, I'm happy. So
Exactly. I
that's
mean,
how I see it.
That's just a good rule for life. Yeah.
It's a good rule of thumb, people. So
I didn't start watching Adam Ruins Everything until like the last couple months. It was on, I think it's streaming on HBO Max, and I was like, I'm gonna check this out. It's always looked like an intriguing show, and yeah, good show.
yeah, he's like he comes at things with like a very matter of fact, way, and he has like like realistic answers to questions that we've been like pondering forever and ever, and like he comes up with like actual solutions that we could actually do, but
But we
don't.
won't because we're stupid. Yeah,
Yes, that's it.
yeah.
That's the way I was trying to say it. I was trying to.
And I also like how like he'll even offer up corrections in subsequent shows and call himself out on his own biases and stuff like that, which is cool. Yeah. So good
Oh,
show. Good show.
yeah, pretty solid. So yeah, so here's hoping that we get SNL back sooner rather than later. But until then, we're gonna have like we got some stuff cooking. We got some stuff cooking in
We're
case
we're
it doesn't
gonna
happen.
we're gonna keep barreling on with these SNL movies because God knows there is no shortage of movies starring SNL alums.
Indeed, indeed. And today's movie that we're going to talk about today is a movie that has two SNL alums. Today we're talking about "So I Married an Axe Murderer"
Yes.
with Mr. Mike Myers, one Nancy Travis,
Hmm.
Anthony LaPaglia, he's like one of those actors that was just in everything in the '90s, from what I remember.
He really was. Yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, hey, I didn't know he was in this. That's
Hey, like,
cool.
yeah, it happens a lot throughout this movie. There's a lot of, oh, hey, that person's in this.
There's a
Oh,
ton of there's a ton of cameos. They're cameos from people who like were famous at the time, and then they're like some people in bit parts who like became famous later, like what's his name from Ally McBeal, who pops up at the end.
Greg German.
Yes, thank you, thank you. And I
Yes,
was like, hey, look, it's him before he was famous.
yes. I knew him from Ned and Stacy. That's
Oh,
that's where I go. Yeah, that's a deep cut.
yeah, wow,
That's a deep cut. How about that?
we're going Ned and Stacy.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah, I like that show. I don't know. I feel like I'm the only one that remembers it.
I only watched the odd episode. I didn't see too much of the Ned and Stacy, but I do like the performers on the show.
Yeah, yeah. No, Tommy Hayden Church, he brings it.
Hmm.
But yes, so I married an axe murderer. This is the movie that Mike Myers came out with right after Wayne's World, the big hit that was. This film came out July 30th, 1993.
Oh, right
The
before my birthday.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, this was the summer of a few big films like Poetic Justice, Free Willy, Sleepless in Seattle, and a small indie called Jurassic Park. This film had a budget of 20 mil, but it only made 11.5 mil. This was a pretty big old bomberoo. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, written by Robbie Fox, directed by Thomas Schlamme or Schlamme.
uh, Tommy Schlamme, who is these days best known for being like Aaron Sorkin's go-to director. He directed the majority of The West Wing, and he directed a lot of Sports Night. And
Yeah,
yeah,
he was
so
also an EP on another TV show we talked about here, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip.
well, yeah, because Aaron Sorkin, yeah,
It's Aaron Sorkin.
those guys like working together. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think this was his first feature film. So
Yeah, it seems like after this, he primarily went to just work in television.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, so I married an axe murderer. I think we kind of chose this one because two reasons. One, it's it's October, it's autumnal season, spooky
yes,
season, so
yeah.
this had the horror vibes to it. And
Yeah, we wanted to do like we were trying to think like, okay, are there any like movies that we can do for the Halloween season? And this
mhm,
is one of the ones that we came up with.
yeah,
So yeah,
and also it was recently the 75th birthday of the late great Mr. Phil Hartman, who would have been 75 this year.
yeah. I wish
So
we could have seen what a 75-year-old Phil Hartman would have been like. That would have
yeah.
been cool.
I know. I think the Fly on the Wall podcast with David Spade and Dana Carvey. I think they like put out an episode dedicated to him and
I think it
like,
was like a two-part episode, and yeah, they had
ooh,
like tons of people talking about Phil Hartman and telling Phil Hartman stories. And I need to listen to that.
yeah.
I still have to check out that podcast.
I mean, sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. Like I think David and Dana, they do have a tendency to like sort of cut their guest off a lot of times and kind of talk about themselves quite a bit, which
Dana
is
and David, please do not let this criticism affect you. The possibility of you coming on this podcast to
oh
talk
right,
about your
yeah,
SNL days. This is
yeah.
Darren's opinion and Darren's opinion only. If you want me to interview you solo sometime, I'm perfectly willing to do that. I will sell my co-host down the river.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow. So
I'm just saying.
this is how it comes out. Here
Yep,
we are.
yep, yep. Just
Wow.
look. Hey, I'm just dotting the i's, crossing the t's.
Thought we were brothers, man. I thought we were in
I'm
this
just making
together.
sure we're not burning any bridges with potential guests.
All right, fine. But yeah, but I mean, other than that, it is a good podcast. I do get a lot of
Mhm.
good guest hosts that they'd had a lot of the most recent SNL cast members on it. Some old cast members, I think like Julie Sweeney and whatnot were on it. Leslie
Yeah, yeah.
Jones. So it is if you're an SNL nerd, I would give it a listen.
Let me check. Hey, I am an SNL nerd. Yeah,
Hey, me too. My picture's right.
yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, my picture's right there on the little icon pic.
Yeah, I just double checked. That is my forehead on the little
Yep.
on the logo there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Recognize that bald head anywhere.
Why'd you got to go there, man?
I was talking about me. I'm talking about
Okay.
me, man. My
All right.
smooth round head.
All right. Okay.
Okay. But yeah. So I married an axe murderer. Like I remember this movie coming out. What was it? I think it was in high school when this came out. Like I remember
Did you
it
see it
being.
back in the day? I didn't.
No, this was my first time ever watching it.
Mine too. Mine too. Yeah, I'd seen the trailer and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't need to run out and see that. And I will just say, good call, 1993 me.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we could spoil a little bit. Yeah, this movie. It's weird because like this movie, when it came out, it bombed. And it was it was a bummer because like this was like Mike Myers' like big chance to show that he could like headline and a movie by himself or be like the leading
Yeah,
man in the movie by himself.
yeah.
And it kind of didn't really go the way he wanted it to. But I mean, he bounced back when Wayne's World 2 came out in December of this same year. So
Okay, yeah. So he wasn't in the doghouse for too long, and then a few
yeah,
years later, he did a little thing called Austin Powers, so he wasn't
yeah,
hurting.
yeah, he was
And
fine.
then he did the Love Guru, and that
Oh,
was pretty much the end of Mike Myers.
then he was hurt. Yeah, like it's whoo. I didn't even see it. I Part of me kind of wants to see that movie just to see how bad it is, but then another part of me is like, I don't want to do that to myself. Or
Someday we will get to the Love Guru.
yeah. So
Someday.
all
I
right.
mean, maybe next October when we're doing horror movies again.
May- I again, that's another movie that's just like infamous for just being like offensive and just terrible to a whole nother level of terrible.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I've seen enough clips of it, and I can believe it's as bad as people say.
yeah,
So,
oof. But let's
but
talk.
but I also see why people gave him the leeway that they did. So,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Mike Myers definitely has a he has like a love for a certain type of humor. Like I mean, you can tell like Peter Sellers is one of his big heroes, and he
yeah,
enjoys like that sort of Peter Sellers UK type of cheeky humor. There's a little
yeah,
bit of that in there, but there's a lot of it, of course, in like the Love Guru. And yeah, to
yeah.
American audiences, it may not really
It
translate.
can be hit and miss. Yeah,
It
yeah.
can be. It
He
can be.
also likes the I'm going to play all the roles, and we have a bit of this in this movie where he plays his own father in the movie.
Yes, yes, his Scottish father because they really hammer in like he's Scottish. No, he's Scott. He loves being Scottish. He is
Yeah.
Scottish.
If
And
it's not Scottish, it's crap.
yeah, like exactly like when he's doing his father, the impression of his dad is basically that if it's
It's
not
that character
it's
from
that
before.
character, it's that voice, it's Fat Bastard, it's Shrek.
It's Shrek. It's yeah.
Yeah.
It's Mike Myers' Scottish
He loves
character
Mike Myers
voice.
loves the Scots. I don't know what it is.
I mean, I mean, I understand. I think that's part of his heritage.
Oh,
So
hey,
I think he's basically impersonating his own father
I can see that.
here.
Yeah,
So
I thought his dad was like from England, like English, but I don't know. Maybe he does have some Scottish
maybe he
heritage.
was. I don't know. I didn't do a 23 and me on Mike Myers.
You didn't do
But
an ancestry on Mike Myers?
no, I did not. I did
No.
not. Yeah, I don't think that show Who Do You Think You Are is airing anymore. So I
Oh
didn't
wow.
get the necessary background. But anyway, okay, so we got Mike Myers. He's this young guy. living in San Francisco, Charlie McKenzie, and he's a beat poet,
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have a
which
job except for
doesn't seem to have any source of income. Which I'm like, how can you afford to, be buying these huge cups of coffee and just be going to what I assume is like a weekly beat poetry night
yeah, it seems like
where
a
you're,
yes, it seems like it's like an open mic, and when he goes up, he always has like a backing band, like a jazz beatnik
yeah,
type of band. So like,
right.
I'm like, how do you able to afford to pay these guys on your meager poetry salary, sir?
I don't know. I did a little bit of research on this, and like somebody was saying like, well, maybe he owns that coffee shop because when they introduce him,
Um,
they do say our own Charlie McKenzie. So maybe he works there or he has some connection to it, but there's nothing else in the movie to lead you to believe that.
yeah, when he said our own Charlie McKenzie, I just imagine he's just a dude that just goes there every night all the time. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I just assumed, oh, he's like a regular there. I didn't. So I think, yeah, I guess it's a workable theory, but it is kind of a reach.
right, yeah, that's true. But yeah. So he's this guy that does like beat poetry, and his best friend.
Woman,
Oh man,
woman. Yeah. And apparently he does that every week. He just does variations on that one thing every week. And I can't imagine people ever getting sick of that.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the things that Mike Myers does in this film that I'm not crazy about. He does. I mean, he kind of mugs out quite a bit throughout the thing, and he like kind of
Yeah.
goes through the same beats in like in a way that he's trying to make it come across charming and likable, but it just kind of comes
Yeah.
across as like, all right, you're doing the same thing over and over.
It's he's very broad. He's very muggy. He's very yeah, and
Yes.
it's you don't really buy him as a real person. And apparently, like part of the reason Mike Myers wanted to do this movie because he was like, I want to play a real guy, but I also want to do like SNL shtick. And I'm like, those aren't really compatible goals. It's like pick one, Mike Myers.
Yeah, like I mean, you see some parts where he's like really trying to show his like acting chops and like, oh yeah, I can play a real boy, and but then that just kind of gets undercut by like him being playing it big and muggy and just
Yeah,
being all like the zany caricature that like he knows how to do. That like
yeah, yeah,
it's like, dude,
and a little of that goes a long way, especially in a movie.
very
So
much
okay,
so.
yeah. So he's at like from the first joke in the movie, like the opening credits, we were like zooming in on San Francisco, and then we go into the coffee shop, and then we have like a one of those huge mugs, and it's like right underneath the camera, and it's supposed to be like somebody carrying the mug around, and we see like them turn in the cup and they wash out the cup and then they put a new drink in the cup and they sprinkle a little cinnamon on top, then they deliver it over to Mike Myers, and Mike Myers is like, oh, I thought I ordered the large. And I'm like, really, your very first joke in this movie and it's not a funny one?
Yeah, there's a couple of parts
I
where he does stuff
was
like
like,
that, where it's like, was that? Did you just shoot that just for the trailer, just for like the
yeah,
commercial? It feels like, oh, this would be good for the commercial. This little wacky, muggy thing that doesn't play into the plot of the movie at all.
yeah. There are moments in there where it's just like, okay, is this just Mike Myers riff in here?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
let her riff in, and yeah, he's there with his buddy Tony, played by Anthony LaPaglia, who's a
yeah,
cop, Italian
an
cop.
undercover cop, and he's dressed like Mike Myers is making fun of him for the way he's dressed because he's dressed in a very over the top fashion. And he's like, "Oh, you look like your Huggy Bear," and
Yeah,
then it's just for that scene, and then he's like dressed like a normal person for the rest of the movie. So I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
so what was the point of that?
yeah, that was weird. That like it seemed like they just had him dressed like that just for that not very strong joke.
Yeah, it's like you look like you're an undercover cop. I am an undercover cop, and I'm like, really? Or that's the belabored way we're going to do this? Okay, all right.
Yes. That's how we're gonna put in the background info we need for the audience.
Yeah, and then
Like,
and then we see Charlie doing his beat poetry, and it's mostly talking about this ex girlfriend of his that apparently, I guess, stole his cat. He's like, I still don't know where my cat is.
Yeah, because I mean, we also learned that Charlie is like kind of afraid of commitment whenever he gets
Yeah,
close to a girl, and like it looks like they're gonna be really serious. He finds a reason to break up with her.
yeah. He
Uh,
breaks up with women for trivial reasons. One of them he breaks up with because she smelled like soup.
I mean,
Um,
that's
did you notice that? Like, okay, because there's a little slide show thing happening when he's doing his beat poetry jazz thing, and like they're showing pictures of his ex girlfriend, and it looked like Sheila Kelly, who's like a known actress. And I was like,
oh
oh, is Sheila Kelly going to show up in this movie as like his ex girlfriend? And nope, no, she never shows up at all. But
yeah,
I could have sworn it was Sheila Kelly.
yeah. I mean, I just thought it was kind of a weird move to show pictures of your actual ex and to do poetry about them in front of a room full of people.
Yeah,
It's like
I
this is
mean, I mean, I guess you can do that at a local show, and that wouldn't come back and bite you in the ass. But
sure,
yeah, I
I
mean, I
guess.
wasn't really questioning that. I was just like, oh, this is an actual actress, not some anonymous woman. So,
Yeah,
are we seeing her?
this isn't a Getty Images. This is an actual
Yeah,
person.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
There's no watermark. This is an actual person.
Yeah,
But yeah, so that's basically yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. Like the character Charlie doesn't really have much of. Isn't really like too fleshed out a character. He's just like, all right, he's a
no.
poet who's afraid of commitment, and that's
Hmm.
really all they have to kind of go
It's
on.
pretty much all we get, and his parents are Scottish.
Yes, exactly. So then
Um,
we cut to the scene where he one day he goes to the butcher shop, which is where Nancy Travis is, where she works.
yeah,
The character Harriet, and he wants to get haggis for his parents.
yeah, because he's going over to his parents' place for dinner, so he's going to bring them haggis because they're Scottish and they love
Yeah,
haggis.
exactly.
And that is the that might be the most perfunctory scene I have ever seen in a movie.
What perfunctory? Damn, bringing up
Well,
the big.
because like he comes in and he's like, "Oh, can I get some haggis?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, because I'm taking it over to my parents." And like the subtext is supposed to be like he has a crush on this woman, and he doesn't know how to talk to her. But all the dialogue is just utterly functional dialogue. It's the most generic, boring ass dialogue. I was like, this feels like a first draft of a scene.
Yeah, like I mean, I know they were trying what they were trying to do. They were trying to show without without them saying anything, just like through the
Right.
emotion and acting that
Just
they
yeah,
like
just
that.
carry it through the performances. But I was like, you got to do something interesting in the scene besides that, man. Just do
Yeah,
do something.
yeah,
I was just like,
yeah, because it's literally him saying like, "Hey, I'd like some haggis." It's not for me; it's for my parents. They're from Scotland, and she's like,
yeah,
"Oh, okay." And then she gets him a haggis, and is like, "Oh, that'll
yeah,
that'll be $14." And he's like, "All right, thank you, goodbye."
yeah, and that's literally what the dialogue is like.
That's it.
I was like, this is the plainest scene I have ever seen in a movie.
It's the Manila envelope of scenes.
Exactly, exactly. I was like, this is how you're setting up the big romantic relationship in the movie. Okay, okay, all right. Um, so then Mike Myers goes over to his parents' place, and as we said, Mike Myers is playing his own dad, Stuart, um, and his and by the way, Mike Myers immediately just goes into the kitchen to spend time with his mother because God forbid we ever have Mike Myers in the same shot with his father.
We
It
don't
just
have the technology to do that. It's 1993, John.
I'm like, we were doing split screens in like the Patty Duke show, but apparently it's a little too much for this movie to pull off.
We
I
don't have the budget.
think
We don't have the budget.
there's I think that like literally one shot in this movie where we
Yeah.
see both Mike Myers playing himself and his father.
All the money went to the Bay City Rollers playing Saturday night, and the three times they play "There She Goes" throughout this movie, John. We
Yeah,
don't have time.
they play two different versions of There She Goes. They play the version by the Laws and the version by the Boo Radleys, which
Yeah,
sound very much alike.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I did like the soundtrack for this movie, by the way. I was like, we got some cool early '90s jams in this thing.
yeah. The soundtrack to this thing is like so 90s. You got some Spin Doctors. You got
Yeah,
what Big Audio Dynamite.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, my God,
yeah,
this is
yeah. We
hella.
got like a club remix of Rush. You know,
God.
Big Time Rush. I think
Uh,
that's the name of that Big Audio
yeah,
Dynamite
yeah.
song.
I think there's some Soul Asylum in there too, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah,
And like, there was
yeah,
also one scene. It still makes me laugh to this, where he's like, using a thigh master while watching a current affair.
I know it was so early. Like that's the sort of thing you would see in like a wedding singer type movie. Like be like, we're taking place in the '90s, and I mean, yeah, that was hilarious.
I was like, dude, that's funnier than any of the jokes, than most of the jokes in this movie.
It really was. It really was. I did get a smile out of that. But another interesting thing is that Stewart, the dad character, he believes in this conspiracy called the Pentaverate,
Yes.
which is the name of the show that Mike Myers came out with like a year or so ago.
Yeah, Mike Myers took that little line that his dad said in this movie, and he's like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm gonna make a Netflix TV show about the Pentaverate. That
Yeah.
no
And
one,
I was like, yeah, it's this weird sort of foreshadowing for a thing Mike Myers would do nearly 30 years later.
yeah, like it's like it's basically like the Pentaverate is basically like an Illuminati type of thing.
Yeah. Now,
Like
is that an actual conspiracy theory, or did he just make up that group?
I feel like he made it up. Like I mean, he
Okay.
says like, oh yeah, the Queen is in it, the
Yeah.
Vatican, Colonel
Yeah.
Sanders,
Yeah. All of those
and
guys.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
as he's saying this, he's talking to Anthony LaPaglia's character, and you see Tony genuinely laughing at this
Yeah.
insanity that Mike Myers is spewing in this character's voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And apparently he was actually breaking during
Yeah,
that.
I
So.
think at one point because I think it's Mike. I think it's Charlie's brother or something. Like he
Hmm.
sits in front of the TV, and Mike Myers' dad Stuart makes fun of the size of his head. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
god, look how big his head is. It's like an orange on a toothpick.
He doesn't really have a big head, though. He just has like a big hairstyle.
Yeah,
I was
but
like, why don't you actually cast a kid with a big head?
yeah, big head representation is important, people.
It's like he's like a normal sized head kid who just has hair like a dandelion.
Yeah, fair point. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
he's just got like a white boy afro thing going
Yeah.
on.
Oh, it is popping. He's like Disco Stew.
Yeah, and he's a redhead, so it's very striking.
Hmm.
Um, did you wonder why, like Charlie's parents, both have these really thick brogues, but Charlie just has a very neutral American style accent? I was like,
Yeah. I mean, I assumed it's because like he grew up here in the States. I think that happens a lot. Like when your
yeah,
parents come here and they have a kid here and you're born in the States, you just don't have the same accent that your parents do.
but
Like when they
I
came
would
in.
just think that if he's growing up under the same roof as them, he'd have a little bit of a lilt or something like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, no. A
I
lot of
don't know.
people.
This is just something I wondered when the movie wasn't engaging me. So,
Mm. Yeah, yeah, no, I hear you. What else we gonna say? Oh yeah,
so his mom's really into the Weekly World News, and she calls it the paper. And
right.
Charlie explains like, "Oh yeah, no, that's all fake news, mom."
Yeah, it's
And
it's tabloid.
yeah, and she reads about this thing called the honeymoon murderer, who's
Mm,
somebody who apparently somebody who's murdering her husbands in different locations throughout the country. So
right.
foreshadowing.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think we learned that one of the persons that was killed was a lounge singer in Atlantic City, a
Hmm.
Russian martial artist instructor in Miami, and a plumber named Ralph Elliott in Dallas.
Okay, well you took more extensive notes than I did. I was
I
just like, it's a honeymoon killer, a honeymoon murderer.
right. I mean, I only took those notes because all those things come into play later on. But
Yeah, yeah, they do try to give you hints. Let's see. Around this point, we meet Tony's captain in the
yeah,
police force, and it's Alan Arkin, the
that was
great Alan Arkin.
the late great Alan Arkin.
Very pleasantly surprised to see Alan Arkin in this movie. I was not expecting to get Alan Arkin again in my life so soon. Always a thrill to see Alan Arkin in a movie, and he was very funny.
Yeah, because like I did like this part of the movie because basically like his pal Tony was like he's a cop, but he was hoping like his cop work would be more exciting like Serpico,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's hoping his boss would be like a hard edged, boss cop captain in the
yeah,
movies. But Alan Arkin as a captain, he's actually really nice and he's very
yeah,
understanding and he's very sweet.
yeah. And yeah, it's a nice understated performance by Alan Arkin. Yeah, Anthony LaPaglia is like I've never had to. I just do paperwork. I've never had to like commandeer a vehicle. I never get into shootouts. I never do. I never do this. I never do that. And of course, that they're going to set up for him doing all this stuff by the end of the movie.
Yeah,
But Alan
exactly.
Arkin's just like, yeah, and he's like, you never tell me I'm going too far, and you're defending me to the commissioner. And he's like, well, I don't report to the commissioner. I report to a committee.
Yeah,
And
I think Tony says like, yeah, I thought I would be like Serpico, but I'm more like Fish from Barney Miller.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, can I just follow this movie for a while? I find this much more interesting than the whole Mike Myers thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
It kind of reminded me of uh, the other guys movie that we did with Will Ferrell and Wahlberg, where they were just kind of pointing out all the movie cop cliches, and I was like, this seems like fresher comedic territory to mine,
Yeah,
but okay, you do your thing, movie.
yeah, you do whatever you want to do. Mike Myers is the star.
Yeah, we got it. More Mike Myers mugging.
Yes,
So Charlie goes back to the butcher shop, and Harriet's really getting slammed because she's apparently the only person who works at this butcher shop.
yes, a one-person butcher shop. That's all you need to run a
Yeah, that's
successful butcher shop.
you don't need a staff. No,
No.
no. And Charlie is like, hey, you're really slammed here. I used to work at a butcher shop. My dad was a butcher. Can I just jump back behind the counter and help you? And she's like, yes, sure you can, utter stranger.
That part of me is like, that's got to be against some type of health code or something. You can't just, as a total stranger, just be like, "Hey, can I? My dad was a firefighter. Can I help you fight these fires?" Like that doesn't
Right.
seem right.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, just on his word. But I guess this is their equivalent to give them a sort of belated meet cute thing. So we get a montage of it's basically just Mike Myers doing shtick with all sorts of
Yeah,
cuts of meat.
yeah. He's
That
really hamming it up.
here, and he's doing everything you'd expect. He pretends one's an alien bursting out of his chest. He's pretending like he's grinding up things. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
all
you could
none of them
say,
are.
yeah, you could say he's playing with his meat.
Yeah,
I
you could say his jokes are pretty stale. Um,
don't,
yeah,
I don't
it's
get that one.
yeah. Okay, I'll explain it later.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I didn't think any of him his shticky stuff was particularly funny. And apparently, when they were shooting this sequence, Mike Myers he so distracted Nancy Travis that she actually cut off the tip of the middle finger of her left hand while she was chopping vegetables.
Oh my god.
And it says here on IMDb trivia, Travis kept shouting "cut, cut, cut," which she meant literally, although the crew initially thought she was referring to the term for stopping the shooting of the scene.
Oh boy.
A local doctor sewed it back on, and in fact, late in the movie, there is a close-up of Nancy Travis's hands, and you can see that she has a Band-Aid on one of her
Oh my
one of her
god.
fingers.
Nancy Travis bled for this movie.
I am glad that she did not actually lose a fingertip for this movie,
Yeah.
because if you have to lose a fingertip for this movie, you want it to be a better movie than this.
Yeah, exactly. You want it to be something like, I mean, I don't know, like Rambo or something. You don't want it to be like this. You don't want it to go out like
Yeah,
this.
you want it to be a better movie than this one, so you feel like your fingertip was not sacrificed in vain. So
Yeah.
thank God she got her fingertip back on.
It's like, oh, the movie bombed and I lost a finger. Okay.
But she did meet a husband out of it, so she like eventually married one of the producers I read. So
Oh,
that's nice.
nice. All
I don't
right.
know if they're still together, but we'll say yes, they are.
Yes, love wins.
Yeah, love wins. Hashtag love wins.
Yeah. Yeah. So then after them working together and them sort of
Yeah,
building a rapport, they go out for they go out for a nice little a little date, evening date, and then like they start talking. I think at one point, they start to tell each other like the most horrible thing they've ever done, and she kind of gives this
yeah.
kind of vague answer.
Very
Uh,
cryptic answer. He's like, "Yeah, what's the most heinous thing you've ever done?" And she's like, "Well, there are all sorts of definitions of heinous or something like that." Yeah,
yeah, and then at one point it reveals that she can speak Russian because like some Russian sailors like say something to her while like they walk past, like something
yeah.
a little cat calling to each other, and then she says something back to them. So it's like, oh, she knows Russian too.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, and then they hook up, and there's like a lot of walking around San Francisco. This movie is basically like a travelogue of San Francisco. I felt like was the San Francisco Tourism Board must have been like a producer on this movie or something because they take in all the sights.
Yes, exactly. I mean,
We see the Golden Gate Bridge, we see Alcatraz, we see that cool area that I don't know the name of, but it looks like a Roman Colosseum.
oh, right, yeah. I've never been to San Francisco, so I don't know,
I've
but
never been there either,
mm.
but I was like, oh, I recognize this from Time After Time, which is a much better movie that I wish I was watching now.
Mm.
Uh,
Wow, wow.
check out Time After Time, people. It's a delight.
Mm.
Malcolm McDowell, Mary Steenburgen. They actually fell in love and got married after the movie.
Oh,
They had a couple kids together,
oh, love wins, love
and
wins.
then they got divorced, and she married Ted Danson. And he
Oh,
probably got married too. But no, they all seem to be good.
okay, all right. Well,
Yeah,
love still wins.
yeah. That's a movie you'll lose a fingertip for.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
that's right. What's a movie you would lose the fingertip for? Call in. Let us know,
Yeah,
listeners.
let us know. We're curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
What movie is what? How many fingertips is your favorite movie worth?
yeah, Goodfellas. Would you
Yeah,
lose a digit, two,
yeah.
a toe?
If you're in the Yakuza, call in. Let us know how many bits of your fingers would you lose for your favorite movie?
Tweet at us at SNL Nerd Show. At SNL Nerd Show. I almost said SNLShow.com.
Hashtag 2 fingertips out of 5.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, like you said, they go back to her place. She lives in this gigantic apartment. Um,
Cavernous apartment.
oh my god.
My God, it's like, are you the mayor? What the hell? How do you afford this as with owning a butcher shop?
Like on a butcher's salary? Really?
It's like our butchers paid like plumbers or something. What the hell's
Oh my
going on
god.
here? I mean,
Uh,
I know movie and all that, but
right.
her, yeah, it's like a 2 level thing, and it's this huge expansive loft thing, and it's all made out, and it's like one of the Friends apartments.
Yeah, it's that big. And of course, they see a huge poster with Atlantic City up there,
Yeah,
which
she's
is of
like,
course,
oh, I used to live there.
yeah. And then like on the wall, there's like a karate gi with some karate equipment, and she's like, "Oh yeah, one of my friends did martial arts."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
just a lot of breadcrumbs about her life and
yeah,
and
yeah.
whatnot. And yeah,
I guess you could call these clues.
I
Sure. All right.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Um.
they hook up. They make wild, passionate love, and
Yes.
while she's sleeping, she has a nightmare and screams out the name Ralph over and
Yes.
over again. And then,
Yes.
uh,
Exactly what you want to hear your new lover cry out uh,
exactly,
on the first night you've been with them. You want to hear them call out another person's name.
right, exactly. And
So
then like
he takes it pretty well, all things
yeah,
considered.
yeah. Charlie says you can call out the name Ralph, and she was like, "Oh, that's my friend. She's a friend of mine." And he was
Yeah.
like, "You have she a female friend named Ralph?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah."
Yeah.
So
Yes.
like,
I'm friends with actress Cheryl Lee Ralph.
exactly. See, you get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I
Exactly.
could name any of Cheryl Lee Ralph's credits, but I just know the name really.
I mean, Abbott Elementary. She's in that now.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That's how the name was sticking in my head.
Yeah.
There you go.
The TV show It's a Living. That's how I know her from
Oh,
back in the day.
hey. Well, there you go. All right. So there are 2 sitcoms that Cheryl Lee Ralph has done.
Boom, boom.
You're welcome, SNL nerds listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next morning, Mike Myers he gets up in the apartment. Harriet's already taken off because she had to do something. She leaves him a note.
Right. She got the butcher.
Um, yeah, she has butcher things to do. Very she's got to pay for this expansive apartment. And Mike Myers he gets up and he goes into the bathroom and he thinks that Harriet is in the shower, but no, it's actually another woman, another random woman, and it's Amanda Plummer playing Harriet's sister Rose.
Yeah. Uh,
And she has that reaction that only people in movies and TV shows have, where you a complete stranger comes into the bathroom while you're showering, and you're totally cool with it. You take it in stride. You're just yeah, whatever.
yeah. Only
Um,
in movies and certain other movies that some of us may know about. Wink, wink.
yeah, yeah, in
Uh,
certain genres of movies, but
yeah.
no, if that happens in life, you are screaming your fucking head off.
Yeah. Exactly. Like get out of here. But
Yeah,
Yeah, but she's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?"
Yeah, it's just it's
It's
the weirdest thing, and it's like what it's one of those things I cannot buy into. I mean, even if your character's like uninhibited or whatever,
yeah, exactly.
no, I just don't buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
A strange man comes. Haven't you seen Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho? For crying out loud!
Did you learn nothing from Psycho?
Yeah, this is like does the name Norman Bates mean nothing to you?
Nothing.
Nothing. Um. So then, Charlie, we see him on a tour of Alcatraz with his friend Tony
Right, and then
because we got to hit all those San Francisco
yeah,
tourist spots.
San Francisco, come to the Alcatraz, the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's almost comical how much mileage they try to get out of the San Francisco scenery. I mean, it's nice. I mean, it's like I have no doubt that this movie was actually shot in San Francisco.
Yeah,
So I guess that's nice.
yeah, and then we get probably what I think from to me was one of the best scenes. They go on
Yeah.
a tour guide of Alcatraz. Their tour guide, of course, was a guard who used to be a former inmate. Ladies and gentlemen, the late great Phil Hartman playing.
Wait. Did he say he used to be a former inmate? Didn't he say he was a guard?
Oh, did he say he was a guard or an inmate? I thought he was an
You
inmate.
said he was an inmate.
Oh,
I thought he said he was a guard.
okay, maybe I don't know. Maybe he was. I thought he was. He said he was an inmate. No, he was an inmate because his name is John Johnson, but friends called him Vicky.
Yeah, why does that mean he's an inmate?
There you go. That's an inmate joke because he was
Because some of the other prisoners
yeah,
made him their woman.
yes. That's
That was a prison rape joke.
I've that's how I took it.
I thought that was just a random joke. I didn't think. I mean, he describes like heinous things that were going on in the prison, but no, I thought he said like all the tour guides here. I'm a former guard.
Oh, I have to go watch back and watch that. Like I could have sworn he was a guard and but he was an inmate in the system. I don't know. I don't. I kind of zoned out. Like once I saw Phil Hartman, I was like, "Hey, it's Phil Hartman! All right."
Right. Okay.
And yeah,
I don't remember that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's not what I heard or not what I remember. So
okay. Listeners, call in. Let us know who's wrong and who's right.
yeah, yeah.
And we'll,
Hashtag Darren's wrong. Hashtag John's right.
yes. Wait, what? Whoa, whoa,
Nothing.
whoa.
Nothing. Let's go on.
Okay. And yeah, I really got a kick out of this scene just because we get to see the maestro at work. Because
Hmm.
like the way Phil Hartman plays, he's like this very super serious, like stoic type of
Very
guard.
deadpan. Very deadpan, and very funny. Yeah, it is one of the highlights of the movie.
Yeah, and then he tells them this story about like this is the story the other guards won't tell you about.
Yeah.
Years ago, Machine Gun Kelly what they call in the prison system a bitch.
Yeah.
And like I also like the part where like he's talking at one point, Mike Mars is still talking to Tony about Harriet and how he really
Yeah.
likes her, and then Tony's like, "No, no, no, quiet, quiet, quiet." And then he looks over, and Phil Hartman's character just shooting him just ice daggers to his eyes, and
Yeah.
oh
Death glare.
yeah,
Death glare.
like it's just me talking about it doesn't do it justice. Just the way he looks at him, and then Charlie be quiet, and then he goes back to saying what he's going to say. It's just
Yeah.
something hilarious about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. My next note is this guy is taking forever to marry the axe murderer. Because, like, at this point, I think we're something like 40 minutes in the movie, like at least halfway into the movie. And I mean, he's dating a possible axe murderer, but he doesn't even suspect that she's an axe murderer yet. And there's no talk of marriage yet. So I'm just like,
Yeah,
we really need to cut to the chase sooner, guys.
yeah. Because like I mean, after that scene, the great Phil Hartman scene, we get like a montage of them spending more and more time together, falling
Yeah.
deeper and deeper in love. We get a scene where they
And
double.
didn't that montage just feel like it was a bunch of deleted scenes that they cut out of the movie? Because like there's a lot of it's not like a typical movie montage where they're just like walking around and laughing and stuff. We're seeing like lips moving like there's actual dialogue.
Yeah,
So I'm like, these are just scraps of deleted scenes.
yeah. There were some scenes cut out and used for this for sure.
Yeah.
There were some drop
Yeah.
storylines.
Yeah, because I'm like, this stuff isn't all that montage cute. This
No.
just feels like scraps from the editing room floor.
We gotta save money somehow, John. We
I
gotta
guess
save.
so.
There she goes. It's not cheap, John. I
All
told
this
you this.
location shooting in San
Yeah,
Francisco.
yeah. Alcatraz cost a pretty penny.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we also get a shot of them on a double date with Tony, and he had to date Debbie Mazar. Again, another '90s staple. Pop.
Debbie Mazar, who just shows up just for this scene and then never shows up in the movie again or is mentioned in the movie again. When he eventually marries Harriet, we don't see Debbie Mazar as Tony's date or anything.
Nope.
She's just there, and it's like, was she just like visiting Anthony LaPaglia on the set one day, and they're like, "Hey, come be in the movie"?
I really feel like it. Yeah, because like she's literally in just that one diner scene, and
Yeah,
she's never mentioned again, never nothing. Just like
I feel like Debbie Mazar just came to the set and she's like, "Hey, Anthony LaPaglia, we're going to be in Empire Records together in a few years. How are you doing? Well, let's hang out." And then
mhm,
and then they just put her on film.
yeah, that's it. And yeah, and then so Harriet and Charlie are getting closer, and then they get to the point where Charlie brings Harriet to meet his parents. So
Yes,
then he brings them over to see the folks,
yeah,
and
brings them over for dinner.
yes, bringing them over
And
for haggis dinner.
I guess they have haggis. Yeah, I don't think they really got into what was served, but
Yeah, and I also did like that one little thing where Charlie goes into the bathroom and we see a picture of the Queen on a dartboard
yeah,
because they're Scottish. You see, they're
yeah.
Scottish, John. They're Scottish.
I personally I was just fixated on how filthy that bathroom sink was.
Yeah,
I saw like a review online. It was just like I would not eat at that house. Did you see that bathroom sink? And I'm like, yes, that was a
mm,
deeply stained bathroom sink.
yeah.
That these are not good housekeepers.
Don't don't believe in cleanliness. I see.
I'm just like, ooh,
Mm,
your hands are not going to get very clean in that sink.
yeah, oof. Love the haggis. Not so much soap and water. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my. Oh my.
But yeah, his parents like her and all that, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's getting serious. And I think there's some throwaway line of dialogue that they've been dating 6 months or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And
Yeah,
so it's getting serious, and that's when Charlie notices the tabloid that his mom brought in a couple of a while back, and that's when he sees like the Mrs. X honeymoon murderer, and that's when like
yeah,
the light flips off in his brain. It's like, hey, wait a minute, she speaks Russian. Like all these things that happened a while ago is just
yeah,
now occurring to him. Hey, wait a minute,
yeah,
that
yeah.
seems
Like
odd.
she used to live in Atlantic City. One of these murders was in Atlantic City. One of the victims was named Ralph. She knew a Ralph, and the karate instructor thing, and yeah,
Right. So yeah. So now he's starting to get in his head, and he's starting to freak out about it, and
right,
it's starting to sort of really bother him. He talks to his buddy Tony about it. If he's heard about these Mrs. X murders, and he says like, "I says from a tabloid. Don't worry about that." And then like. He has somebody in at the precinct look it up. We see
yeah.
Lunella, who's like a comic in this movie too, just pops up as the person who finds the info on him.
Oh yeah, I recognized her from yeah, she was in the Borat movie, right?
I believe so. Yeah, she's like one of those
Yeah,
comics from predominantly black circuit that's been in a ton of movies like for
yeah,
years, like since the '90s.
yeah. I was like, oh wow, look at her. I mean, I knew that she was a character actor as well, but I mean, she really popped in the first Borat movie. She was like the lady that Borat fell in love with over the course of the movie.
Yes, yes, I think you're
So
right.
I was like, hey, look at that. Hey, she's in
Right,
this. Cool.
right. So yeah, so at this point, Charlie's like very wary of Harriet, and Harriet kind of like when they're in bed together, Harriet says things like, "Oh, we this is great that we can be this close together." It's great that this relationship where we can be vulnerable around you. Like, look at you, like you're in bed with me right now, and you're sleeping when you're at your most vulnerable. Like, I could do anything to you. Like, I could stick a needle in your ear, and that'll be fine. Like, and of course, things like that freak out Charlie. But I think something like that would freak out anybody. Like,
Yeah, it's just weird, and I mean, was there ever a point in this movie where you thought she was legitimately an axe murderer? Because I didn't.
Yeah, I just thought she was. I don't know about the way Nancy Travis played this character because like there are points where she's like, she seems like really great, and of course like, oh, she can't be, but then she acts like very odd in certain scenes. Like I
Yeah, it just seemed more like she acted odd because I don't, Nancy Travis doesn't really have any edge to her,
no.
and I read actually that um, Sharon Stone was originally going to play this part.
Ooh,
And I'm like, oh, that would have been really interesting, especially like coming right on the heels of Basic Instinct.
yeah, that would have been.
And I'm like, oh, and we'll get into later why she didn't end up playing the part because it kind of plays into the ending of the movie.
Oh wow.
Um,
I mean, part of me would
but
think that like maybe Sharon Stone is like maybe. I mean, she's a very lovely looking woman, and so much so that maybe she's kind of out of Mike Myers' league, and like maybe Nancy Travis is a little bit more
yeah,
girl
but
next
it's the
door.
movies that shit happens all the time.
Oh,
I
does it?
mean, have you seen any movie Adam Sandler has ever made?
You know what? Fair point. I take that back. I take that
I
back.
mean, there's like, oh, here I am with my wife, Kate Beckinsale, and my other wife, Salma Hayek. I mean, come on.
You know what? Fair. You know what? It was stupid as soon as I said it. I take it right on back.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I'm like, I kind of want to see the version of this movie where Sharon Stone plays the part because, like, Sharon Stone, I could potentially believe is a murderer, especially right after Basic Instinct. I mean, that would have been a fun meta gag, I think. But
yeah, yeah. Like I think Sharon Stone definitely has the edge to play that. Is she not a murderer? I don't think
yeah,
Nancy Travis really has that. And also, I don't know the chemistry between her and Mike Myers. I feel like really wasn't there.
no, I didn't feel that either. I think I've just seen Nancy Travis in too many sitcoms to ever like believe she's a potential threat. You know?
Yeah, I think she was like. I mean, I know now she's in the one with Tim Allen.
Yeah, Last
Last
Man
Man on,
Standing,
yeah, and that's
and
like,
she was in that Almost Perfect Show
oof, okay,
um, back in the '90s. I think that was.
okay,
But oh, okay, so yeah, Charlie he gets into his head and he breaks up with Harriet, and then like right after he breaks up with Harriet, Tony tells him that they caught the Ralph guy's murderer.
right, right,
That
exactly.
somebody confessed to that.
Right, because and also before that, we get this really interesting scene where, because it's Charlie's parents' 30th wedding anniversary, and then he goes to the
Oh right, okay,
yeah, and
yeah,
he wants to go to the newspaper to put an ad in the paper, and then he overhears two people in the obituary section talking, and the two people are Michael Richards, just out of nowhere,
hmm
and I forget the other guy's name, but I know he's like one of those guys that's in like a ton of stuff.
he's a character actor, and I don't have his name handy right now, but he played the Super on Friends.
Right.
Yeah,
And then like they're talking and talking about the people who died in the obituary, and then one of them mentions Ralph Elliott, and he Charlie runs up to them asking, did they say anything about the wife? Did they get a picture or name of the wife? And they're like,
right.
no, we didn't get a picture of the name of the wife. So now Charlie gets more and more freaked out, and it's like you said, he breaks up with her because he's just
Yeah,
he just can't. He really thinks she might be a murderer, even though he has
yeah,
no proof.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
And so yeah, so after he breaks up with Harriet, and then after they Tony tells him they caught Ralph Elliott's murderer. Um, it was at this point in my notes I wrote down my prediction of like who the killer was actually going to be, and I guessed right
Hey, nice.
because I because well I thought about it for 2 seconds. There is a law that Roger Ebert had, which was like the law of economy of movie characters, where it's like if it's a mystery and there's a character who seems to have no other reason to be in the movie, that is going to turn up to be the culprit because
Yeah,
you don't put a character in a movie for no reason.
yeah. They really. We'll get there, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair
yeah,
enough.
because I was like, oh, the killer has to be this person because there's no reason for this person to be in the movie otherwise.
There really is.
And maybe if you've been listening closely, you can guess just from our plot description.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah. So then they break up. Charlie's heartbroken. He does more jazz poetry at the cafe.
Yeah.
He kind of realized he still loves her and wants her back. And then we
Yeah.
finds out that from Tony that they caught the killer. He like goes rushing back to her
Right.
saying, "Please take me back. I made a mistake.
Right.
I got scared. I love you." Harry doesn't take him back at first, but
Right.
then he comes back with his jazz band and like serenades
He
her.
serenades her with beat poetry. Yeah.
Yes, it's the way to any woman's heart.
I mean, look. I mean, if there's one thing I've learned in my 51 years on this planet is bitches love beat poetry.
Damn, homie. All right.
You know, when
Wow.
you do beat poetry to a woman, they just melt. I
Skippity
mean,
beep pop.
that's just how it works. That's just the way of the world.
That's right. Exactly. And
Bitches love beat poetry.
oh Jesus Christ. Uh, but yeah. So yeah, and so he does it. He says, "Yo, whoa, man, oh, boo, oh, baby, scoopity
Yeah,
beep
because
pop."
that's like his one thing.
Yeah, he's not a very good poet. Like if you're just doing the same
Well,
thing.
yeah, not very versatile anyway. I mean, he doesn't have a real deep bench of,
Yeah,
of stuff.
yeah. He has the one go to, the one move, and he sticks to that one move.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, and it's enough to win Harriet back. So then they have a bubble bath, and the next
Yeah.
day, um, we see that Harriet's friend Ralph, who is a woman, shows up, and like,
She is undeniably a woman. That was a female gendered person.
yes.
Yes.
So it's like, hey, she's not the murderer, all right. And like, and side note, they never say how she knows Ralph.
Nope.
Like Ralph doesn't have any lines, and Ralph never
Nope.
comes up again. They never explain why Harriet was screaming or moaning Ralph's name
Nope.
in the nightmare.
Nope.
It's the whole
They
thing.
just like Mike Myers walks out from the bath to greet her with like a towel wrapped around his waist, and while he's hugging her, the towel falls down and he's naked.
Ha ha,
And
Petey.
he's like, "Hey," and again, movie characters reacting like no actual person would. Everyone's just amused, like, "Oh, ha 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 ha, he's naked." And not they don't even she doesn't even unclench from the hug. She just keeps on hugging this naked stranger.
Yeah, that strange man's penis just pushed up against her. That's
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah,
I. That's terrifying. You don't.
yeah, that's
That was a weird scene.
that was a weird scene, and not just because we saw Mike Myers' butt in it.
Yeah,
It's just weird because again they are reacting like no human would.
really, really are. So yeah, so we cut to uh, what is it? Charlie's parents' 30th wedding anniversary. They're at a bar, restaurant with all their friends celebrating
Yeah,
their 30th anniversary. They tell each other they love them. Everybody's overcome with emotion, singing, dancing. Drunken Scottish frivolity,
haggis. I'm assuming.
haggis.
Yeah,
Yes, all the hag. They got to eat. Oh, cabbage, cabbage. They eat cabbage too.
yeah,
If I'm not
because
mistaken.
Scottish.
Yes, exactly. Cause Scottish. And yeah, and Charlie's overcome with the emotion of the evening, and he asks Harriet to marry her. Says they wants to grow old with you. I want to have kids with you. I want to be with you for the rest of my life. And she says yes. I mean, I think she's hesitant at first, but then she eventually says yes. Cut to their wedding. When it's her time to say "I do," she takes a minute. You can see she's like nervous, but she does say "I do."
Yeah,
And then we cut to Charlie's dad, Stuart, singing "Do You Think I'm Sexy" with to somebody playing the bagpipes.
yeah, bagpipe version of "Do You Think I'm
Right.
Sexy" by Rod Stewart, who
Because
apparently had one of his parents was Scottish,
oh
is what I read on the IMDb trivia.
oh he's not fully Scottish.
I don't think he's fully Scottish. I think one parent or the other was Scottish, and I do not remember
Okay.
which it was.
All right. Well, we'll count it.
Yeah,
And yeah. So it seems like it's a good night. Everybody's having fun, and everybody's like, yeah. I don't believe Tony and Charlie are talking. He's like, yeah, I can't believe you almost didn't go through with this because you thought she was the murderer. And then at one point we see Harry grab the mic singing "Only You," which I think is one of the songs that I think came up in one of the cases. Like she knows all the words to it, and she knows it in different languages, which also came up in one of the cases. So that's like a little.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't really keeping track of the quote unquote clues anymore by this
It's not.
point, but
It's not a big clue, really.
it's not much of a mystery, people.
Yeah. Yeah. So for their honeymoon, they go up to Poets Corner, where the place
Yeah,
where beat poets used to hang out, and that's when Tony finds
because
out.
Charlie's a beat poet, people.
Yeah, he likes the poetries, and apparently he has disposable income from some unknown source.
He also has an incredible car.
He has a really cool car. I'm like,
He's got this cool convertible. I don't know what type of car it was, but it is a gorgeous fucking car.
it's nice. It's a
Yeah,
sweet ride.
yeah.
It's cherry.
So whatever he's doing, I mean, maybe Charlie's like a contract killer.
Maybe
That would be a cool twist.
I'd I'd buy that.
Yeah,
But yeah, so at this point we find out that oh yeah, Tony finds out from his boss, Alan Arkin,
right.
who's trying to be
The
more
amazing Alan Arkin. He
amazing.
says the woman who confessed to the Ralph murder confessed to other murderers, like famous murderers like Abraham Lincoln and stuff. So like she's a kook who just confesses to everything.
Right. She's a nut job.
Yeah.
So then that's when Tony gets freaked out.
And wait, before you go move on, the amusing thing is that Alan Arkin is trying to be like the tough police captain guy, and he's like yelling this out in a very aggressive manner. And then like after he does that, he's like, "How was that? Was that good?" Um,
Yeah.
Again, that was amusing. Alan Arkin nailing his part.
Yeah. I like the part where like he screams at him, like, "Hey, Pison,
Yeah,
you solved this case, before noon. Also, I'll have your ass." And then he comes back and said,
yeah,
was it too much with the ethnic slurs? Was that good?
yeah, yeah. And he's like, "No, it's actually Paisan."
Like, oh,
And he's
okay,
like,
all
"Oh,
right.
Paisan, Paisan. Okay, okay."
Yeah.
Because what does Alan Arkin know about Italian ethnic slurs?
What does he know, Ray?
Yeah,
Yeah. So then Tony does some research and he faxes a picture of Harriet to some of the sources of people who were near the people that got killed. He sends
right.
out a fax of the picture to one of the plumbers in Dallas, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Ralph's wife for sure."
Yeah,
And then he
yeah. Everybody IDs Harriet as the person who was married to all the victims.
exactly. So then Tony freaks
So,
out, and he has to run to Charlie's honeymoon to make an
so
arrest.
at this point, we have maybe 30 minutes left in the movie, or it's probably more like 20. And finally, it's like we have married an axe murderer,
Yes.
which, well, let's be real, should have happened like 30 minutes in.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah. So then we see. I think we see them at the restaurant, at the hotel, with I guess like a little bed and breakfast place.
Yeah,
Um, you know, Charlie's super happy. Harry looks very nervous and kind of fidgety, like she's like
yeah.
very.
On the drive up, Charlie's like, "Oh, hey, I like you better than all uh, I she he's like pretending he's Harriet. He's speaking for Harriet, and she's like, "Oh, I like you better than all my other husbands." And then Harriet, the real Harriet, is like, "Why did you say that?" And it sets off something for
Mm,
her.
yeah,
And yeah,
it's like one of
she's
those.
a woman with secrets.
Yeah, it's like one of the things where you accidentally say something that sets somebody off. Like, why would you say
Yeah,
that? That's not funny. Why would you say that?
yeah, yeah,
You're like, oh dear. Oh,
yeah.
I made a wrong
And
turn.
so now Cop Tony, Anthony Napaglia, he's convinced that he had his friend Charlie has actually married an ex murderer, and so he charters a plane,
Yeah.
and we have another unexpected cameo, and it's the pilot of the chartered plane, Stephen Wright.
Stephen Wright. Wow.
Yeah,
How?
unexpected Stephen Wright, but again, always nice to see Stephen Wright.
Yeah, exactly. That was a shocker because I think at this point there's like a storm coming, and I
Yeah,
guess he couldn't get there. He couldn't drive there, so he chartered a plane.
and it's also knocked out all the phones, so he can't just call.
Yeah,
Well, he tries calling,
he does call.
but yeah, the call is interrupted.
He calls Charlie to let him know that, oh yeah, the person that confessed to the murders isn't the murderer. It's Harriet. And then the phone gets
Right,
cut off, and then of course Charlie's all
right.
freaked out because like, oh, I married a murderer. Oh
An
no,
axe murderer.
an axe
Yes.
murderer. Yes,
Yeah, hence the title.
yes,
And then everybody at the hotel is like, they put them in the honeymoon chair and they carry them up to the honeymoon suite.
Opa.
Yeah, because everyone at this bed and breakfast is super invested in these newlyweds'
Yeah, they
marriage.
really want him to bone.
I know. It's like, do you have money on this? What the hell is going on? It's like, okay, you're introduced in the restaurant, everybody claps politely for a minute, and then you go on with your night.
Yeah.
But no, apparently they have a tradition in this hotel. They put them in a honeymoon chair, which is a little love seat thing, and then they carry it up like it's a Jewish wedding or
Yeah, yeah.
something.
I know, Lahayim.
Yeah, it was just like, this is odd.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I'm just watching this.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, so we see Tony trying to get to the hotel in time. The plane
yeah.
lands. He commandeers a vehicle from some passerby, and who happens to be the passerby, the person driving the car? Charles Grodin.
Charles Grodin, random Charles Grodin showing up in our movie.
So random.
Look, I love that we had unexpected roles or cameos, really, by Alan Arkin and Charles Grodin and Stephen Wright. I mean, and like a few pre-fame people like Michael Richards. I mean, that's kind of cool. It's fun to see these people just randomly pop up in the movie.
Yeah, they're actually. I actually enjoy their scenes. Like the one scene where Tony's like, "Hey, I'm a San Francisco police department. I need to commandeer this vehicle," and Charles Grodin just looks at him and says, "No."
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's just Charles Grodin could not care less. He could not give an F.
Uh, the late great Charles Grodin.
Oh, I just love it so much. I just treasure all Charles Grodin appearances everywhere.
Right.
But
So
so much fun.
yeah. So Charles Grodin doesn't let him commandeer the vehicle, but he'll drive him to it. So now he has.
Yeah.
That's how he got the right.
I'm like, hey, look, whatever thin premise we have to accept to get more Charles Grodin in this movie, I am for it. Yes,
Yes.
okay.
Here, here. So back to the hotel. We see that.
If we must.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
sure.
we're almost done. We're almost there.
Okay.
So yeah. So basically, we see that Harry's been very nervous, and he's been nervous because she has to tell um, Charlie that she's been married before,
Yeah,
and
I haven't been entirely honest with you. And they go into the honeymoon suite, and there is like giant logs and an axe for firewood.
of course,
Like,
like every hotel room.
that's a standard bed and breakfast thing. Yes,
Yes,
obviously.
yes. I want the king size bed and an axe with the firewood.
I mean, it's not a honeymoon without an axe to chop firewood.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone knows chopping firewood, indoor activity.
Of course. What are you gonna do it outdoors like an animal?
It's just such a reach. It's such a reach.
It really is.
Even for a movie called So I Married an Axe Murderer, such a reach.
It really is. It's reaching. Uh,
It's like insane. It's insane. This movie is insane. Not entirely in the best way.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, what happened is the two of them kind of tussle, and of course, Charlie freaks out and he locks Harriet in the closet. And then, as he
Right.
goes to try to get help, he tries to call the phone, which is out. He notices there's a note on the desk in his handwriting saying, "Dear Harriet, I couldn't go through with it anymore. I need to leave this.
Right.
I need to leave this." And Charlie's like, "Whose note is this? I didn't write this." And
Right.
surprise, surprise, it was written by the axe murderer, who happens to be pause, pause. It's Rose. It's Harriet's sister.
Harriet's sister, who Charlie caught in the shower earlier in the movie, and we've barely seen since.
Yeah, that was so weird. Yeah,
But yeah, I did the math, and I was like, okay, look, Amanda Plummer was like, she was a name at this point. She was like a working supporting actress at the very least.
yeah,
I saw her in The Fisher King.
yeah.
I mean,
She did Pulp Fiction.
yeah,
That ain't nothing.
yeah. Well, she did Pulp Fiction the next year.
Oh right, okay. Oh right,
Yeah,
yes, my bad.
yeah. Geez, she's only a year out from Pulp Fiction. Holy crap,
Mm.
man! Quentin Tarantino did Amanda Plummer a solid, didn't he?
He did. He really did.
But yeah, she's ready to execute every last one of you motherfuckers in this movie. Um, Yeah, and yeah, we find out that she has an unhealthy fixation on her sister because like earlier in the movie, she said when Charlie's like talking to her a bit over breakfast, she's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, she's involved, but she always comes back to me." And yeah, so there's like a bit of a single white female type of thing going on.
Mm.
We don't really delve into it in a big way.
Not at all. Like it's literally just like a 180 turn. Like we talk about
Yeah,
Rose in that one scene that you mentioned. She appears
right.
in a few other scenes but has no dialogue. And
I mean, we see her as like the maid of honor at the wedding,
yeah, and that's it.
but no dialogue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then now she's a murdering psychopath with an axe, and that's it.
yeah,
That's
but
her,
it's just
that's her whole
she
arc.
just basically she has a scene and then she pops up a couple more times to like, oh yeah, remember that Rose, Harriet's sister, is a thing.
Yeah,
And then like sometime around the breakup, I was like, wait, why is Amanda Plummer in this movie? Why is Amanda Plummer playing this bit part? And I was like, oh yeah, of course, because she's the murderer. What other function could she have in this plot?
yes. Elementary, my dear Watson.
Yeah, I mean, did you figure it out?
uh, if I had been paying attention, I probably could have. But like
Well, I mean, you were writing down all the clues, so you
I,
were
I
paying
was,
attention.
but I don't think I did. Like, I think it was that point where, like, once she came out dressed in a tarp like American Psycho with an axe, I was like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, she's in this movie. She's probably did it. And yeah,
yeah.
sure enough, she just
But
was it.
yeah, I mean, you're so detached from the movie at this point. You're just like, oh yeah, okay, well yeah, who else would it be? All right,
Right.
well okay. So now we have comic hijinks where Mike Myers is trying to dodge an axe on a roof.
Yeah, exactly. Like the two of them end up on the roof, and she's like swinging an axe at him. A cop car comes. Tony
Yeah,
comes. He busts down the
Tony
door.
gets there. He,
He
he he gets Harriet out of the closet, but he still thinks that she is the murderer, so he handcuffs her, and Harriet is trying to convince him, no, it's actually my sister. And we actually hear Mike Myers like screaming from outside, and Tony is still like, yeah, no, you're still the murderer. And
yeah,
it's like
that was dumb. That didn't make any
that
sense.
was yeah, it's like so dumb.
Yeah, like I mean, I was just like, what?
It's like, okay, I accept that the character's not a good cop, but you can literally hear your friend call you for help.
Yeah, but that's the he did good cop things, like when he faxed out the pictures to all the other people to confirm it was her. That's like good. That's some good police work there. But then, like, he does have shades of being a good cop. But then, when it comes to him, with his Harriet and like Charlie clearly screaming on the roof, he's like,
Yeah,
"No, that can't be him." Like,
it's so weird.
like,
It's such a weird thing.
like, what? When
Yeah.
did you become? How did you go from being a decent cop to just like a big old dum dum? What the fuck?
I mean, maybe if we established that he was hard of hearing earlier in the movie or
Yeah,
something,
it just
just so there was some reason for him to be that oblivious.
yeah, it was just odd. I was like,
It
what?
was weird. It was just a weird choice.
Right. So yeah.
Um,
Rose chases Charlie on the roof. Charlie gets hit in the nuts a couple times because comedy.
yeah,
And I think at one point they both kind of fall down, but uh,
yeah,
Tony manages to capture her and like arrest her,
yeah.
and
There's a thing where like Mike Myers is hanging off the gutters of the building, and she's like trying to chop at him with an axe, and he has to like take his hand away and dodge, and like a one axe blow comes like between two of his fingers,
yeah,
and again, not a movie you want to lose a finger over.
no, not at all. Yeah, I mean this scene, I guess it was supposed to be like kind of thrilling, but it doesn't really come across that way. It,
Well, it wasn't really suspenseful
yeah,
because I mean, the movie isn't going to end with Mike Myers getting axed to death.
yeah, that's true.
Um, I mean, that would be a daring way to end the
Yeah,
movie.
it ends in his murder.
Well, apparently, okay, again, this is something I read on the IMDb trivia, but apparently in like some of the earlier drafts, the character of Harriet was actually an axe murderer, and then she's like captured and put in prison, but Charlie still decides to be married to her. And
Oh,
like the last scene is him visiting her in prison, and he's like, outside of the axe murdering, she's really the perfect wife.
huh.
which which I think that sounds like a real offbeat albeit dark ending. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a movie I haven't seen a million times before. The movie they made, it feels like a movie I've seen a million times before.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to go about it. I was like, all right.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, and then the movie kind of ends. It's like the sister gets arrested. Charlie and Harriet are together, and they live happily ever after. We get another beat poem from him at the cafe about
yeah,
Harriet, and then there she goes, plays one last time at the end.
yeah. Except this time the poem's about like how much he loves his wife,
Yeah,
and
Harriet.
yeah, even though his new uh, sister-in-law is an axe murderer.
Yes, exactly. But they don't talk about that.
No,
You
no,
glossed
but
over that.
I mean, but what relationship doesn't have baggage, really?
Yeah. What relationship? Who amongst us hasn't doesn't have an axe murderer in their family? That's all. That's what I
So
say.
okay, so you know how I said earlier that Sharon Stone was going to play the part of Harriet.
Yes.
Apparently, she wanted to play both Harriet and Rose,
Hmm.
but the filmmakers were like, no, no, you can't play both parts. And I'm like, why not? That is so much more interesting.
It's because like Mike
That's
Myers is doing playing himself and his father, and
I don't
to
know.
have
I don't
her
know. I'm just
play.
like that would have been so much more interesting, and I think Sharon Stone could have brought a lot more colors to it because Nancy Travis, she's just I don't know. She was fine. She was just kind of bland. I thought though.
Yeah, that's one of my complaints. Like she was really kind of just there. I mean, I don't know if it was that she didn't know how to play the character really, but yeah, like the scenes where it kind of called her for her to sort of amp up and like sort of bring
Yeah,
some gravitas to like a few certain scenes, like where I don't know if she really got there. Like the scenes where she,
yeah. I mean, she doesn't really have enough of an edge to be a potential axe murderer. I thought.
yeah, like I
And
never like it's like you said, I never felt like she was a danger or a threat in any way.
no, not at all. Not at all. And also, I mean, the script doesn't give her a whole lot to work with because she's just basically girl.
Yeah,
You know.
well, we gotta have
Um,
time to have Mike Myers mugging and showing his ass and all that jazz.
yeah, I just yeah, they just they don't give her too much to play. So I don't know
No,
if it's a failure of the actress or the script or some combination of the two.
you know,
I guess I'll go with combination of the two.
yeah,
I'll spread the blame around.
yeah, spread it around. Do that. But yeah, that's the movie, guys. I mean, I know it has like a cult following, but I really don't understand how. It's like the movie
I
is
don't. Yeah, I don't get it. It just and I wouldn't say it was like actively bad, but it was just like
it's
it was just kind of there.
yeah,
It's just
it's kind of forgettable, honestly.
yeah, it's a very I mean, like 6 months from now, I'm not going to remember much from this movie at
Yeah,
all.
I mean, I will admit, like, it's almost like everybody else in this movie had good scenes, except for the lead character, Mike Myers. Like, I like
Yeah,
Phil Hartman had a good scene.
yeah, he killed it.
Alan Arkin, good scenes.
Killed it.
Grodin, good scenes.
Killed it. Yeah.
All the main characters, eh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's really too bad because it's like I don't know. Like, was Mike Myers feeling constrained because he was playing a quote unquote normal guy? But
maybe.
I mean, I guess he was just still kind of green as an actor at this point
I think so. Yeah, it kind of shows like his.
because he's doing a lot of shtick.
Yeah, it seems like he's comfortable in his shtick. When it comes
Yeah.
to him being a actual human being, like it's just like a regular dude, he's like, I don't know how to do this. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't. Yeah. So and and I don't know. Yeah. And apparently he clashed with Thomas Schlamme a bit when they were doing this movie too
he seems to
because
clash with a lot of directors.
yeah, well, because apparently, like Mike Myers, he's a very exacting kind of guy,
Mm.
and yeah, so
And
um,
this is exactly what he wanted.
I don't think so.
Mm.
I don't think so. Okay, so like the original script was this writer Robbie Fox, and he has sole credit on it, but apparently the movie was rewritten by Mike Myers and his writing partner, whose last name was Malarkey. I can't remember his first.
I'm sorry,
Um,
that's a great last name.
It's a hilarious comedy writer
Oh
name.
my
Yes,
god.
Neil Malarkey. Neil Malarkey. So they rewrote it, and but the original writer Robbie didn't want to give them credit, and it like went to arbitration, and Robbie Fox got sole credit for the screenplay,
Oh wow.
even though it sounds like it was changed quite a bit from his original story. It says in the original version, Charlie was Jewish, and according to
Mm.
Robert N. Freed, that's the producer that Nancy Travis married, it was initially conceived as being more about paranoia than commitment.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and it says Mike Myers wanted changes to the script that would allow him to do some serious acting in Saturday Night Live style comedy.
I mean, I guess something like that is possible. Like I'm trying to think of
Yeah,
like maybe some actors that have done it. Maybe Will Ferrell or something like that. Like, but it's yeah, like it came across way more like mug. It really did feel like
yeah,
he was more at home being the muggy Saturday Night Live guy rather than
yeah.
the.
I don't think I ever got any serious acting moments in this.
I mean,
You know,
there was like when he was telling Harriet, "I love you," and I was scared. I mean, like moments like that, he was trying to be serious, but I didn't quite buy it. And like, but then again,
I
like he,
barely remember what he did in those scenes. So yeah,
but yeah, it's like it's like you said, like he was green to movie acting, and like he was still
yeah,
trying to get his feet wet, and he's trying to like really hone his chops, as it were.
yeah.
So it shows.
Okay, we got a little more about the making of. It says here there were stories in the press that Mike Myers' overinflated ego forced extensive reshoots on the film, and that he tried to deny Robbie Fox credit for writing the film,
Oh, gee.
sometimes locking himself in his trailer and refusing to work. On the set, director Tommy Schlamme said that he had his differences with Myers over how the film should be shaped. He said that Myers was, quote, taking a stretch beyond his usual self and was playing outside of himself.
Yeah.
Okay, if you say so. Personality clashes were bound to happen. We struggled. However, the director denied that Myers was a control freak and praised the, quote, total commitment to his work. But yes, it was difficult. In
Mm.
addition, several newspapers and magazines claimed that the film went over budget with infighting among the principal actors and lengthy release delays, and that it was unfunny.
Okay.
I actually looked up Roger Ebert's review of it from back in the day, and he starts out. He says, "So I Married an Axe Murderer is a mediocre movie with a good one trapped inside, wildly signaling to be set free."
I'd agree with that.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, he says the good movie involves a droll and eccentric Scottish American family whose household embraces more of the trappings of Scottishness than your average Glasgow souvenir shop. The bad movie is about a young man's romance with a woman he comes to suspect is an axe murderer.
Mm.
Um, I I wasn't like dying for more of the Scottish family. I was dying for more of like Alan Arkin and Charles Grodin and Anthony LaPaglia. Really,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of get what they were going for. They were trying to go for people's like you said, like paranoia and like the fear of commitment, like that type of thing of where you have to
yeah,
get over that stuff in order to look into the future and live in the now, and like don't
yeah.
let your inner fears affect your future type of stuff. I mean that could be an interesting way to take it, but
Right, yeah, and it could be an interesting metaphor for fear, commitment, and all that. But
it
I don't know. It either needed to get more real or more absurd. It's in this weird sort of nether region between the two of them,
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah,
and it doesn't entirely work as a consequence of that. I mean, there's the odd funny moment, but
yeah,
not really in the main plot line.
yeah. Like I mean the odd, and it is saying something like most of the funny moments don't come from the lead, but from like other
Yeah,
people, which is a problem.
and I mean, the plot never really. It's not really suspenseful. It doesn't really keep you guessing, and the jokes aren't too funny. So it's yeah, like, well, what are we doing here?
Yeah, yeah, agreed. It's a mediocre movie at best, I'd say.
Yeah, it really is, and it's too bad. I mean, because we could have made a fun, absurd comedy, but
We coulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
good soundtrack though.
Yeah, and if you like There She Goes, I mean,
If you like "There She Goes," you will hear it about 3 times in this
if you're
movie.
a fan of Two Princes, they got that
Two
on here.
princes. We got the Spin Doctors before. it probably wasn't too much of a cliche to play two princes in 1993.
Yeah, no, they were good. They were dope. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Overall movie not as entertaining as the video to Two Princes.
exactly.
Yeah.
If you take away anything from this podcast, go watch the video for Spin Doctor's Two Princes.
Yeah. Still holds up. Still holds
up. Absolutely.
Just go ahead now.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I see what you did there. Oh, Little Miss can't be wrong. And that's the episode, guys. Thanks for listening, as always, to our fun little podcast here. And well, I mean, we're still trying to figure out what to do for the next episodes. We don't know if a new episode of SNL was going to be out. If it is, we'll talk about that. If not, we'll have something planned. Don't you worry about us.
Yeah, no, we're doing some planning. I mean, not in time to like announce what we're doing next on the podcast, but we're doing some planning.
Yes, exactly. We got plans. We got plans, baby.
So we'll be back next week with either a new episode of Saturday Night Live, maybe, who knows? Or some other movie.
Exactly. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter, because we refuse to call it X, at SNL Nerd Show. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky and anywhere else you can find me at Darren Credible. That's DARIN Credible.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Trumbull Comic. That's TRUMBULL, and the word comic. I blanked on how I was spelling my name halfway through spelling it.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah,
but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I was like, TRUM. Did I spell that right? Yes, I think I did. BULL. Yes. Okay. So yeah, find us there, people. Absolutely. Find us there. Let us know what you think of how So I Married an Axe Murderer.
That's the movie we were talking about for the past 90 minutes. Yes.
Yeah. Which is about the length of the movie.
Yeah. And if I may say so myself, this was funnier than the movie.
This was more entertaining than the movie for me. Yes, I enjoyed deconstructing the movie with you more than actually watching you.
Yay!
So, yeah, time well spent. This one gotta be okay. Yeah, go listen to Two Princes, folks. Just go ahead now, and we'll be back next week with another thing. But until then, nerds out.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.